And when I ask you if what happened on October 7th is something you condemn, and you say, well, you have to look at that by looking at hundreds of years of conflict. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's either right or it's wrong, and it was wrong, and I don't need 100 years of conflict to know it was wrong. When somebody comes over a fence and goes into someone's house and burns their infant in its crib, I don't give a damn why they did it. It's wrong. Mosab, it's good to meet you.
It's nice to meet you as well.
You grew up being indoctrinated by Hamas, and your father was one of the co-founders. What did they teach you from an early age about Jews?
There is lots of hatred in that culture against the Jewish people. It's not a secret. In fact, the Muslim belief system has a fundamental problem with the Jewish people.
And their solution is what?
First of all, we need to understand what is the problem. Because from a personal experience with the Jewish people, all I saw, the most amazing, most productive, and most successful nation in the world that don't harm anyone else. So why the Muslim people hate the Jewish people? They don't have a reason except the ideological reason. And that is, in some Islamic texts, they say that Muhammad had a problem with the Jews, and Muhammad is their prophet, so they follow his footsteps. But in reality, Muhammad did not write a word that says anything against the Jewish people. You can say hatred as one motive, but it's not only hatred. It's human delusion, it's envy, it's anger.
But there's a difference between hating someone and deciding that you need to wipe them off the face of the earth. And when I look at what happened on October 7th, that's more than just hating. What's that about?
You know, there is lots of violence. And what Hamas did on October 7th was an attempt for ethnic cleansing. In fact, they succeeded in ethnically cleanse close to 20 Jewish communities. And this shows you their intention. You know, they want to dominate. This was a holy mission. It's a holy war. In Islam, to kill for Allah is a way of worship. This is the stuff that nobody likes to talk about.
Let's take a look at what you're describing in what some of these kids are trained to do at a very young age.
In Gaza and the West Bank, nearly 10,000 teachers and school administrators employed by UNRWA belong to Hamas-dominated unions, which call for the destruction of Israel. UNRWA is financing school curriculums that glorify terror and suicide bombing. Children are being inoculated with the belief that any and all means possible must be used to reclaim Palestine. UNRWA students openly parade in the streets and call for Israel's destruction. All of this occurs in plain sight, within the watchful eye of UNRWA teachers. These students are between the ages of 8 and 10 and have already received military training.
فلسطين عربية من المي للمية.
كيف الحق العودة؟
هذا نرمى على اليهود حجار وندبح اليهود. إن نقتل اليهود وندافع عن وطننا.
لو شو ما يصير يصير مش راح يصير سلام.
راح ناخذ حقنا والله ينتقم منهم إن شاء الله يموتوا كلهم.
And parents, if their child is killed in the service of that, that's a good thing.
It's encouraged in that society.
And your father was fine if you got killed in that service.
Well, this is practically what he did in real life. When he had to choose between the cause and his own son, who saved his own life, In fact, I sacrificed everything to save his life. And my reward was to be disowned, shunned, and he publicly stated that my blood is allowed. That was some 12 years ago. 12 years before I disowned him.
Student organizations' reactions to the Hamas attack revealed a disturbing degree of ivy-covered intellectual rot. Americans nationwide have been appalled and shocked. The leadership of these supposedly highly sophisticated schools are so busy virtue signaling that words are violence, but violence, horrific, inhumane violence, is social justice, that they have forgotten it is their job to teach their students to think and to test reality. I was absolutely outraged about what was happening on college campuses, and I could not remain silent. I posted that message and more on social media. I'm here with Mosab Yousef, son of the Hamas co-founder. He turned his back on Hamas and is estranged from his family. He wrote a book, and here's what he says about these college protesters.
I love Hamas. I think Hamas.
Oh, you love a terrorist organization. Interesting. Harvard Square.
They should be all exterminated. And their kids, their mothers, their children, just like Hitler.
To all those students, I say that it's very disappointing to see Americans supporting Hamas and thinking that Hamas is a cool thing. While Hamas does not respect any of those followers, while those followers don't know that Hamas would torture them and massacre them with no mercy. They call them useful idiots. They don't know that Hamas is a dark, black hole.
You guys are Nazis. You're the one killing Jews. Genocide.
You have no idea what you're talking about. I am being emotional. I have the right to be emotional because I speak on behalf of the children as a Palestinian child. Majority of people lack purpose. They want a cause, and without a cause, they don't exist.
You say that they're looked at by Hamas and the Palestinians as useful idiots. What do you mean by that?
I spent lots of time in Hamas prisons with other Hamas leaders and Hamas members from different districts. Then, most importantly, I worked with the Israeli intelligence and I had the honor to be a part of the counterterrorism unit. And I was born there and part of that culture, part of that religion. And I barely understood this monster. That's why I described it as black hole. Then some people hear about Hamas or they see an avatar of a Hamas fighter carrying a rifle, a freedom fighter, and they think it's a fancy idea, to support such a monster. This is why I call them idiots, absolutely idiots, because they don't know what they are supporting. They are supporting a monster that has been hijacking an entire society and endangering the entire Middle East, pushing the world towards a global war. Instead of condemning such a monster that they just committed ethnic cleansing against innocent people, then kidnapped hundreds of hostages, then used their own people as human shields. And none of those pro-Palestine people condemned Hamas up to this day. How long would it take them to realize that this is not only enemy of Israel, it's enemy of civilization? So when I see protesters on campuses like Harvard, of course I was outraged. I am still outraged. What's happening is insanity. Those pro-Palestine people need to go to a mental asylum.
I was indoctrinated to hate a lot of people. First and foremost, I was taught to hate myself. I was taught to hate Jewish people, that they are the enemies of Allah, and that the worst possible thing in the world to be is a Jew.
You're seeing what has been happening on college campuses everywhere. And joining me now are seniors from the University of Michigan, Selma and Zainab. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Anything you want to say in response to what's been said so far?
Well, absolutely. I believe that this conversation is being contextualized in the wrong way. I believe that it's being discussed under the notion that this is a religious war, that this is a conflict between Arabs and Jews, and that Hamas is central to Palestinian suffering or Palestinian resistance. And I think I want to give a bit more historical context of why we're actually fighting for Palestine. When we say that we're pro-Palestine, we're not advocating for any military group. We're advocating for the total liberation of all oppressed peoples.
I get the contextualization, but I also get a lot of buzzwords strung together. But I'm asking you what you think and you believe. Let's start with what happened on October 7th. Do you endorse that?
I reject the premise of that question because I don't believe that the person asking me that question has the moral authority to ask it until they first and foremost condemn the violent formation of Israel and the ensuing Palestinian deaths. And in fact, I find it unfair that advocates for Palestine are first forced to preemptively condemn acts of violence before their platform is considered legitimate. It plays into Islamophobic tropes.
Islamophobic tropes?
Yes.
Well, let's just get down to right and wrong.
Okay.
And if you don't want to answer the question, that is an answer. Do you condemn what happened on October 7th?
Of course, we do not justify murdering any innocent civilians. But again, the framework of the question makes it seem as if the situation is the result only because of October 7th, when there have been several massacres for decades leading up to this. So when we have been the recipients of that violence and we are first asked to condemn violence, I find that there is a sense of hypocrisy in those questions when our suffering is not being recognized. And the first thing we're asked is to condemn.
What do you think Israel was going to do when Hamas cuts a hole in the fence and comes over the top and kills 1,300 people? What did you think they should have done?
I think they have every right to go in combat with Hamas, but I don't think they have the right for 92% of the death count to be civilians.
If they burn an infant in a crib, do you see that as a moral equivalent to a collateral death from a bomb being dropped as an act of war?
They have explicitly targeted civilian areas that have been marked as civilian areas. Israel has the registry for every person in Gaza.
And if that's where the enemy is hiding, do they have a right to attack them?
No, they do not have the right to kill.
There are some things that are just fundamental human decency. And when I ask you if what happened on October 7th is something you condemn, and you say, well, you have to look at that by looking at hundreds of years of conflict. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's either right or it's wrong, and it was wrong, and I don't need 100 years of conflict to know it was wrong.
The fact of the matter is that Hamas, yes, did take innocent life. Why did Hamas take away innocent life? Why was Hamas platformed? Why was Hamas funded? Why is Hamas empowered to take away innocent life?
Let me tell you something. When somebody comes over a fence and goes into someone's house and burns their infant in its crib, I don't give a damn why they did it. It's wrong. I've read it that the charter of Hamas is to eliminate the Jewish race, beginning with Israel, but not stopping with Israel, wiping them off the face of the earth. Is that true?
This is true, but it does not end there. Now we have the problem with the pro-Palestine who are actually giving Hamas cover. They are participants in the crime. In fact, since October 7, I personally don't differentiate between Hamas and what's so-called Palestinians. Because actually there is no Palestinians. There are tribes. There is the tribe of Hamas, and there is the tribe of the Islamic Jihad, and there is the tribe of Khalil, and there is the tribe of Nablus. And each one has different interests, and all of them are conflicted. If they did not have Israel as the common enemy, they would kill each other. This is the reality of what's so-called Palestine.
Rhetoric?
You don't know what Palestine is. Actually, in fact, the keffiyeh that you are wearing, this is just a statement to show that you really lack the authenticity to represent the case. And what's so-called the cause, you know, this is a human problem.
So you just...
The cause must die. I think enough is enough. And now it's proven, and you are helping Hamas to prove it to the world, that Palestine depends on the destruction of the state of Israel. And this is not acceptable, and we are not going to agree to it. And I tell you something, for the next 10 or 20 years, the Palestinian people will pay the bill that Hamas is caused today, and most likely in blood.
To you, Hamas and Palestinians are the same, they're one and the same?
After October 7, yes, there is no difference.
Really?
The vast majority of the Palestinian people support Hamas.
Really?
This is a fact. This is proven by statistics, and your silence now. You cannot even condemn Hamas and say that what they did on October 7 was an act of a savage group. You don't have that power.
Said I condemn.
On what authority
question.
do you speak? You only speak on the authority of Hamas propaganda.
No, why do you say that I'm speaking on the authority of Hamas propaganda?
Because if you were a decent human being, you can say that the thousands were killed on October 7. That was a crime against humanity. It was a genocide.